Welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. Today we are in First Chronicles chapter 19. I don't need to introduce myself anymore. You can see my big photo every time you open this podcast. We're so happy in everything that God has been speaking to us through this chapter. So we're going to approach chapter 19 differently. I want to read for us these first 13 verses of the chapter, and then we'll pick up our takeout for today from there. So chapter 19 of First Chronicles, I'm reading from the NIV version. It says, "In the course of time, Nahash, king of the Ammonites, died, and his son succeeded him as king. David thought, I will show kindness to Hanun, son of Nahash, because his father showed kindness to me." So David just basically wants to return the kindness of the father who's died to the son who's taken over. So David sent a delegation to express his sympathy to Hanun concerning his father. When David's envoys came to Hanun in the land of the Ammonites to express sympathy to him, the Ammonite commanders said to Hanun, "Do you think David is honoring your father by sending envoys to you to express sympathy? Haven't his envoys come to you only to explore and spy out the country and overthrow it?" Something very interesting starts happening here. I hope you're following along. So Hanun seized David's envoys, shaved them, cut off their garments at the buttocks, and sent them away. Very embarrassing for real. When someone came and told David about the men, he sent messengers to meet them, for they were greatly humiliated. I'm sure you can understand. These are the king's envoys. These are like diplomats that the king has sent. And then this guy has just decided to embarrass them by shaving their beard. I think beards meant a lot to men in those days. And then he's cut their clothes off at the back where it matters. And these guys are really humiliated. So when someone came and told David about the men, he sent messengers to meet them, for they were greatly humiliated. The king said, "Stay at Jericho till your beards have grown, and then come back." When the Ammonites realized that they had become obnoxious to David, I think it hit them at that point that they'd really messed up. So it's hit them. And then Hanun, the guy who'd gone to be visited, and the Ammonites sent 1,000 talents of silver to hire chariots and charioteers from Aram, Aram Naharaim, Aram Makkah, and Zobah. They hired 30,000 chariots and charioteers, as well as the king of Makkah with his troops, who came and camped near Medeba, while the Ammonites were mustered from their towns and moved out for battle. On hearing this, David sent Joab out with the entire army of fighting men. The Ammonites came out and drew up in battle formation at the entrance to their city, while the kings who had come were by themselves in the open country. Joab saw that there were battle lines in front of him and behind him, so he selected some of the best troops in Israel and deployed them against the Arameans. He put the rest of the men under the command of Abishai, his brother, and they were deployed against the Ammonites. Joab, if you remember, was David's commander and his cousin as well. So Joab said, "If the Arameans are too strong for me, then you are to rescue me. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will rescue you." And then verse 13, which is the last verse we'll read, says, "Be strong and let us fight bravely for our people and the cities of our God, for the Lord will do what is good in his sight." I needed to read this because of the story that happens at the beginning. I think that story really helps us to see that in essence, some things can be avoided by you and I checking who we surround ourselves with. The king, this is King Hanun, was surrounded probably by people who were just insecure. David was just showing good will because this guy had lost his father. King Nahash had died, and he sent men. He sent men to go and condole with him, to go and say sorry for losing your dad and everything, to comfort with him. But this guy listened to his advisors, and they decided to do the humiliating thing that they did to this man. I really read that. Immediately I read that, I was like, these guys were just bad advisors. They projected their insecurities to the king, and the king just caught them. You know how you catch things, like it's like a Velcro grip. He just gripped the insecurities and he was like, okay, I think these guys are here to spy on us. There are a lot of things that we can avoid just by knowing and by choosing the people we listen to. Sometimes we are hanging out with people in circles, and because of the insecurities of that have been caused by things they've gone through, they project those insecurities to us, and that determines how we react. You're in a very good relationship with somebody. The relationship is going great. But you're hanging out with people who've gone through heartbreak and pain, frustration in relationships. Nairobi, you know how we Nairobi relationships? And we just say, this is Nairobi. Everybody is out to do this and the other and the other. So we have people coming to us with good intentions. You have a man or a lady who has good intentions, and they're like, I want this relationship to succeed. But then because of the people we are hanging out with, because of the people you hang out with and the people you listen to, your advisors, they can throw you to a place where they give you advice that is based on the insecurities that they have, right? And I hope we see the practicality in this before we look at these men and be like, hey, these were just some men out there. This really applies to how we live our lives today. You and I can be in a place where you even want to start a business. You have really done your research. You believe in the idea. It's a great idea. This thing can really pick if you put your effort behind it, if you're consistent, innovative, you have a drive that will see this thing succeed. But because of the people you hang out with, people can project their fears on you. Maybe they've tried things and the things have not worked, so they project those fears on you. And that's exactly what this man did on this King Hanun. And he ended up in a place where he was fighting wars he should not be fighting, because of the people that he listened to. I really want you to check your circles. Really look at your circles. Look at the people you hang out with. Look at the advice that you listen. And sometimes just check, before I act on this, who has given me this advice? What is their intention in this? What is their background? What are their experiences? What interests do they have in the matter that they're advising you on? I really love this chapter because of that. Verse 13 is an amazing chapter, and I want us to land there. It says, be strong and let us fight bravely for our people and the cities of our God. The Lord will do what is good in his sight. That's a really very, very clear chapter, because this chapter is just demonstrating to you and I something that we need to look at a lot of times. Be strong. Let us fight bravely for our people and for the cities of our God. The Lord will do what is good in his sight. And the thing I want to ask you as we close our episode for today is this: how often do you remind yourself the reason why you're doing the things you're doing? Right? Joab was charging his brother. He was, after allocating him the war that he was meant to fight, he was charging him and he said, my guy, be strong. Fight bravely for our people and for the cities of our God. The Lord will do what is good in his sight. How often do we remind ourselves why we are fighting? The reason why we are fighting. How often do we remember why we are waking up early to do the things that we are doing? How often do we remember why it is important and why it matters for us to show up in the spaces we need to show up in? Yeah. And he notices here, he lists the things. He says, we are fighting for our people, right? And then he says, we're fighting for God and for the cities of our God. And then he says, we're fighting, we are trusting that God will do what is good in his sight, right? I hope you take time and just ask yourself, the job you wake up to go to early in the morning, the things you've committed. Maybe you're a student who's in school, and sometimes when you don't remind yourself of the reason why you're doing what you're doing, you can get derailed in your mind and you're like, I think I want to quit. I think I want to do this and that and the other. But I like this charge that Joab gave to Abishai. It reminds us that sometimes we have to stop and ask, why are we doing the things we are doing? And he says, be strong. We are fighting bravely for our people and for the cities of our God. We are fighting for our people. Sometimes we do the things we do because we are fighting for our families. We are standing in the gap for our families. We do the things that we do because we are fighting for God. We are doing this for God. And it's important for you and I to remind ourselves of our why. So 2 key things we've picked from our chapter today. Number 1, check your circles, who you surround yourself with. It really, really matters. check the advice that you take in. You don't have to take everything in. Sieve it and see, is it good for you? Don't let people project their fears and insecurities on you. And then number 2, always remind yourself the why. It's really important to remind yourself why you're fighting. Because if you keep fighting without remembering why, the fight drains you, the fight loses meaning. But when you have your why, even winning becomes easier because you are driven by something deeper. And the why for these guys was for our people and for the cities of our God. So fight for God today. Fight for the people who really depend on you. And may God bless you. Have a great day. Bye.